Ladies and gentlemen, let us discuss digital sales, as well as the state of PC and console game sales, digitally primarily. Recently, analysts have confirmed that digital sales have made up 92% of all of the PC game market from 2013. So, that might not be super duper surprising to you, but when you really consider how quickly this has shifted, particularly when you were to draw a comparison to, let's say, the PlayStation 3 or even the PS4, it's pretty damn shocking. And I have some theories as to why this is, and we'll go into those in just a moment. So, this analyst firm, I suppose you could call them, a DFC Intelligence, have said something that we already know. Just like next generation console, when we say PS4, it's not really next generation anymore. In fact, PS3 is now last generation and PS4 is current generation. In this case, digital distribution is no longer something, at least for the PC, that's, going to happen in a couple of years' time. Most people have such fast internet connections now and such large hard drives that digital distribution is now. In fact, it's even a couple of years ago. Now, 92% is actually higher than what I initially thought it would be. If I had to do a guess, and once again, a guess isn't particularly accurate necessarily, but I would have probably imagined around the 80% mark, as there are still quite a lot of deals on websites such as Amazon. Now, a couple of years ago, Electronic Arts announced a first quarter financial report, and they said that they actually made more money from PC sales than the PlayStation 3. Now, the main reason as to this was, well, digital sales. They basically stated that physical copies of games were in a decline, particularly on the PC. In other words, people were just not really willing to buy the physical media anymore. Meanwhile, digital sales were going up rather quickly. There's a couple of reasons to that. You could imagine Steam being pretty much installed on every gaming PC ever at this point. Then you've got other websites like GOG, Humble Bundle, all of them vying for your wallet, and all of them running sales, all of them running great deals, all of them usually offering things such as promotional codes and anything else they can to get your cash. Now, in addition to Steam and GOG, there's also been a rise of free-to-play games. Now, free-to-play, in my personal opinion, isn't an ideal future, but whatever. John Romero, if I can pronounce his name, John Romero, just last month said, and this is his words, not mine, these are his words rather, the PC is, and I quote, decimating consoles. The real reason behind that is the popularity of free-to-play games and, well, just the digital market as a whole. When you consider that the PC market, the games market for PC, has actually surpassed that of consoles, this is very interesting. Now, that's not to say that digital distribution on the PC is perfect. At times, you've got websites such as Amazon that sometimes do the physical copy of games cheaper. Particularly, might I add, when you're dealing with certain companies, cough, Blizzard, cough, and their own digital distribution methods are ridiculously expensive sometimes, and it kind of pisses me off, if I'm totally blunt with you. With all of that said, I find it absolutely still completely and utterly freaking ludicrous of the prices on not just PSN, but the Xbox. The other day, a couple of days ago, I was just curious, this is before Diablo 3, I was actually going to buy it through the PSN store. True story, might I add. And then I saw the price of it in the UK. I think it's either 55 or 60. I genuinely don't remember. It was so high that I just immediately was like, are you actually sure? It's absolutely positively ridiculous that they are charging price premiums still. Now, we know that console makers, manufacturers and owners really have this very tenuous relationship with companies like GameStop, with companies like Game. And it's actually really funny, because if you walk into certain games, that would be Game Store, we have them in the UK, they're literally just called Game, in case you don't know, if you're from the States or Canada or wherever. They actually have these promotional codes, and you can actually put those codes in. I don't know if they have them in GameStop, I'd assume so. And you could put these codes in, and they are literally for that one game. So you will go in to whatever store, let's just call it, you know, your local game, and you will buy this promotional code, which will then basically transfer your money, I suppose, transition that into a code that you can put into Steam, and that code can then be used to access to download that one specific game. Does anyone find that a little bit crap? Personally speaking, I mean, I suppose technically it's a little bit like, say, Green Man Gaming, where they sell you a code over the internet, but there's a difference. It's usually bloody heavily discounted. It just kind of takes the piss when these retailers are actually selling it not just the same price as Steam. Like, that's okay, fine, if that's how you wish to pay. Maybe you don't trust using your credit card on the internet, maybe you're young, maybe you don't have a credit card, maybe, you know, your credit card's expired and you're waiting in rage while your bank transfers it, whatever the reason, you know, and you really want this game, fine. But it does piss me off quite immensely when they actually start charging you more. I think the other problem with consoles is the size of their hard drives. Now, yes, there are ways of upgrading the hard drive, but to be honest with you, the hard drives inside the systems now are pretty pitiful in terms of their actual overall size. I will be totally and utterly bluntly and brutally honest with you. I like the idea of a digital future. I don't like cloud, particularly with gaming. There's a couple of reasons to that, and I'll go into that in just a moment. I like the idea of a service like Steam, for the most part. But let's face it, you are giving up rights. If I want to take my game collection around Bob's house, technically I can do it. This is a theory, unless they offer some game sharing service. But let's just say they don't in this case. You've got this thing where your game is basically tied to your account. So if you freaking hate the game, if it turns out to be the worst thing you've ever played, if it's buggy, if you completed it in like 2 days and you're like, okay, I want to trade this in, well, you're SOL. That's one thing I will give Electronic Arts with Origin service. If it's an EA, I think it's a published game. I definitely know if it's created by Electronic Arts and I was developed, but I think it's also published. You can get your money back within a period of time. Double check, however, before you rush out and buy something. I don't want to give you false advice. I don't know what the time periods are. I think they're 24 hours. And I actually really respect that, because if a game doesn't run too well on your system, or you just plain don't like it, you can get your money back. But for the most part, you can't do that digitally. And that's just a right that you're giving up, which is one of the reasons that it should be cheaper. It's also not very easy to lend to your friends, and there are dozens of other issues with it that we've discussed numerous times over. Which is why PSN and Xbox Live do piss me off quite substantially. As I said, this isn't necessarily immune to Steam. I have seen instances where Steam, as well as Battle.net, in particular Battle.net, I have to say, the games are considerably more expensive oftentimes. Battle.net is really bad, particularly with games like Diablo, the original Diablo 3, not Reaper of Souls. That's considerably more expensive than Battle.net. They sometimes have sales, but even when there's sales, they really only bring it down to the same price as Amazon or other physical medium versions, and that does kind of annoy me. Moreover, digital sales now are starting to get the same segmentation issue. In other words, buy from me and I'll give you this version. Buy from this one, you'll get a different version. That is also a problem. We know the retailers have been doing this crap for a long time. GameStop will give you a pre-order bonus. This shop will give you a pre-order bonus, and there's different ones for every single bloody retailer, it appears. I mean, quite literally speaking, in the UK, we have a couple of really large retailers, Shop2.net, which are okay. You know, they're pretty reliable. You do get your games fairly early. They have sometimes pre-order bonuses. You have game.co.uk. They have their pre-order bonuses, and so on and so forth. And, you know, you're kind of expecting that with physical retail versions of the game. It does immensely piss me off, particularly Watch Dogs, for example, where there were so many bloody versions of the game, so many bloody iterations of it, so many bloody special editions, shiny versions, the ones that will give you a blowjob every time you put the disc in versions. It's absolutely bloody ridiculous. They actually made a chart for this. I mean, can you imagine? You actually need a chart to realize and work out which versions of the game. It's actually where I run a gaming channel to the point, and I didn't even understand a lot of the versions. I was having to actually consult the charts before making a video. That's insane. And yes, I didn't actually take a breath from that little rant, which is fairly impressive, I might say. Calming thoughts. Calming thoughts. Anyway, now we're starting to get this exact same issue with digital, which can be a problem. I suppose technically with at least how the platforms work now, Sony have a monopoly on the PlayStation Store because, well, it's the PlayStation Store, so there's that. I don't know how that's going to work. And finally, I'm going to end my opinions on this little newsy, opinionsy, ranty, whatever the balls this is video, on cloud. So, a couple of people have asked me this, and I figure it's might as well throw it into this video rather than, well, at least to give you a basic answer. This is a very basic answer. There's certainly a larger answer behind this, but why do I dislike cloud? Why do I always add the caveat that I dislike it? Okay, firstly, I would like to point out that I don't like cloud for the purpose of the idea of gaming in the cloud. That's not to say something like Xbox Live servers, where the server fires up for the purpose of multiplayer for your session and then it falls over after you've disconnected. That's fine. I don't have problems with, say, cloud-based web servers or cloud-based distribution. In other words, for example, Steam will likely use various content delivery networks and various servers which are likely cloud-based, and they'll spin up at times where it gets really busy, for example, their Steam sales, and then we'll obviously deallocate those when the resources are no longer required. All of that's fine. The reason I dislike cloud, however, when it comes to gaming, is because then it becomes more of a service, which is like Gaikai. And if you look at PlayStation, and I feel Sony have gotten away with this a little too much, and that's just the pricing of renting games and emulation, and I just think it's really sucky, because basically it gets to the point where if that happens, we as consumers lose a lot of our buying power. Basically we get more into, we become their bitch even more than what we are now. Where if, for example, we really dislike, let's just say, just throwing it out there, let's say we really dislike a 2016 version of the game, but 2015, you know, you just feel it's a lot better, but they decide, you know what, we're going to stop the service for 2015 and we're just going to push and promote 2016, so people have to play and buy and focus on this one. You're screwed, and I just don't like that. A similar argument could possibly be made with something along the lines of Steam or, let's say, Xbox Live, where if the service does go down, you're pretty boned, but I suppose at the very least, if you've got the thing attached to your console, or in the case of Steam, you can play the game offline mode. They have, that would be Valve, have said that they have contingency plans if they do decide, you know, if they, let's hope they don't, but let's just say they were to go bankrupt, and I don't see how they could ever go bankrupt at this point, but let's just assume, you know, this horrible thing happened and they did somehow go bankrupt. Well, they have said they have contingency plans in place. I don't know how they'd work. They've not unveiled them, at least as far as I understand. Anyway, there's probably other stuff that I should mention in this, but I think it's getting to the point where it's getting almost 15 minutes long, and I think you've heard me speak long enough. So I'm going to let you go. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you will give it a thumbs up, and if I are lucky, you will give a comment and a share. And if not, well, I bid you farewell, my friends. Take care, and bye for now.